Okay, hi everybody. My name is Richard Desperance. I go by the name of my man Richard. Welcome to A Better Lifestyle. Today I have the pleasure to have Russell Van Brocklen with me, better known as the dyslexia professor. So welcome Russell to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Great, it's my pleasure. So I'm gonna jump in right into it. So tell us a little bit about your story. I know you've dealt with that dyslexia. So how did you overcome it, and what are you doing right now at the moment? Because I know you're teaching. You have a program. So talk to us about that.
Well, it all started, which got me involved in this, is I did the 1997 dyslexia New York State Assembly internship program. I was dyslexic. They didn't give me a normal internship. They put me in the Majority Leaders Program and Counsel's office, which really treated me like a graduate student because my dyslexia was so bad, they didn't want me misfiling things. And there are three administrative assistants there that could help me with my reading and writing issues, which were basically at the first grade level. So it made the internship challenging. They recommended a GPA of 3.67. But because I was dyslexic, I gave an oral presentation instead of a written paper. And because of that, when they sent everything back to the State University of New York Center at Buffalo, the political science department looked at this and said, "We don't like these accommodations. Here's your 15 credits of F." All right. You know what that does to a transcript? I was expecting A minus, then I got a semester's worth of F. And it infuriated me. And I said, I'm going to solve this. So immediately after that, I decided to go ahead and to audit law school, to just go in and find and just solve everything. Um, I decided to go and work with a professor. His name was Professor Warner, and I audited two classes, one in contracts, one in property. Problem is, I had a first grade reading and writing level, which was going to be a bit of a challenge for law school. So my second day in contracts, I was called on. Are you familiar with the Socratic method?
No.
Okay. What they do in law school is if you don't know the answer in your second day of class, most people don't know the answers, is they keep asking you questions when you say, I don't know, to embarrass you. The idea is to train you as rapidly as possible to be able to argue any legal side, anytime, anywhere. And that's the method that they've been using in law schools in the United States for decades. Well, Professor Warner called on me. Everybody just kind of gasped. They're like, thank goodness it's not them. Well, everything just changed for me in that moment. Everything just lined up. I could see where he was going. We were battling back with each other. I couldn't beat him. He couldn't beat me. 15 minutes later, he said, Russell, you couldn't be any more correct. I have to move on for reasons of time. My classmates told me, even those who stayed into the program and graduated, they still couldn't do half of what I did that second day of contracts after they graduated. And then I went on to property and we had tests to read. And what they would do when you give you a quiz in law school is you're supposed to read a multiple choice question, think for 3 to 5 minutes to answer because they're trying to fool you in a very subtle way. I didn't think for 3 to 5 minutes. I thought for less than 2 seconds, and I had the answer right every time. So 20 minutes into class, I'm handing in the quiz. Almost nobody else finished, and they got a lot wrong. I said, this is easy. Well, I ended up solving my reading and writing problems that semester in law school. The issue that I ran into is I just couldn't keep up with the legal research and writing. Lawyers read and write more than anybody out there practically, and I just couldn't keep up. But I said, now that I've learned to overcome this, I want to solve this for people that were like me. And it took another 4 years to figure out how to start to translate things over. So then I said, okay, now I solved this. I want the New York State government to fund my research. And my professors laughed and said, it's not going to happen. Well, it just so happened that my representative in the Senate was Senator Joe Bruno, who's the majority leader at the time. and his educational aide was very interested. So he sent me over to the New York State Education Department. Well, when the majority leader of the New York State Senate sends you over to the state education department, they have to take you seriously. But I think they just wanted to get rid of me. So they said, "Where did this research come out of?" I said, "SUNY, out of Buffalo." They said, "Great. We want a SUNY distinguished professor in psychology, their highest rank, to review this and to say there's something here." Well, there were only two distinguished professors in psychology in Western New York. Just so happened when I had the evaluation done in 97 to apply to grad school, Dr. Holichka had a little office about a quarter mile from the South Campus of Buffalo. And she was one of the two distinguished professors. She said, "Yeah, I'll do this." So the state paid for the evaluation. It was a neuropsychological evaluation, 20 hours of testing under her, the smartest woman I ever met, beating me up for 20 hours over 3 days. And she wrote a report and came back. There are five areas of my brain. All five are severely abnormal. And what was happening is I could take my reading and writing skills from first grade to above average grad level and back down again. And I'm simply moving from a part of my brain that works to a part, sorry, that doesn't work to a part that works. So now the education department had to take this seriously. They said, "Okay, you need to now connect this to current research." So it was sent over to Professor James Collins. He wrote a book called Strategies for Struggling Writers, and he found three default writing strategies of copying, visualization, and narrative. And he said, "Okay, you have to get him to approve it." He had over $1 million in federal funding for this. And people said, "Oh, that's going to take you for years." Well, they had a university-wide competition. I didn't have years. I had weeks. I got his approval. He said, "Excellent, A plus," and I did that in under 2 weeks, which shows you that there is some advantage to being dyslexic when you're doing a grad program. Then I entered the competition. I got second place for 15,000. And we tested out our first. What we did is we decided to use the graduate records exam analytical writing assessment. That's the most used test for going into grad school in America. So we picked our first student. Her name was Michaela. I can use her first name. She was the best and brightest junior at my old high school, Averill Park Central School District in Rensselaer County, and she had eighth grade reading and writing ability. So then we gave her a writing test for going into graduate school, assuming a college education. How do you think she did?
She did great.
No, she scored in the 0 percentile.
Oh,
Remember, she's a high school junior, reading and writing at the eighth grade level, and we gave her a test that assumed the completion or almost completion of a college education. So,
but she didn't have the training like
oh,
in
this is the pretest.
okay, okay, okay.
Okay, so the pretest, we gave her that, and Dr. Holichka scored it, and she said 0 percentile, said the spelling and grammar were atrocious. It was just a complete mess all the way around. 5 months later, we gave her the post test. She scored at approximately the 50th percentile. Spelling and grammar cleaned itself up to acceptable for entering graduate school. No complaints from Dr. Lichka there. And she missed a few things the professor said she should have gotten. Overall, it was 50th percentile. She went on to college, 3.0 GPA, no accommodations, and she graduated. Then the next one, and remember, I'm only dealing with the most motivated, the most intelligent, excellent family support, college bound. I'm only dealing with the elite because that was the purpose to demonstrate what could happen with the very best. Next guy was Adam. The teacher said he was a genius, but his writing was at the seventh grade level, which I think was a little high. Dr. Holichka looked at it. She said, "This kid should be banned from college. His writing is so atrocious. Yes, he's a genius, but his spelling and grammar is so atrocious. Professors shouldn't have to deal with this." Post test, 70th percentile. He got every argument, and his spelling and grammar was clearly at the graduate level. That happened, took about another 5 months for him. At that point, this went all through the SUNY Research Foundation, through the education department. Everything looked, they said, "Okay, uh, Senator Bruner's office said, let's go and put this into a school and see what happens. So we went to Averill Park and they selected their very best special ed teacher, took less than 4 hours to train her, name was Susan Ford. She rewrote what I did to meet her teaching style, who she was working with, and the Senate funded it for years. The, Under her, they didn't quite go as far as we wanted. So what happened is the 0 percentile went to the 30th to 50th percentile, and the 6th percentile went up to about the 70th. All the kids graduated. None of them used any accommodations in college, GPAs between 2.5 to 3.6. And this was at a major state university. Most of them went to SUNY Albany. So at that point, I thought that I succeeded. I thought that I did everything that I needed to do. I was wrong. When we presented this in New York City in 2006 at the New York City branch of the International Dyslexia Association, I was asked, what about everybody else? And I said, no, this is only for the most elite students. So I had to go back and fix that. And then I was also asked by the professors, and they said, oh, you got the 70th percentile in the GRE writing assessment. I don't care. I got this. I get the 95th. I can deal with this. This isn't what I want. I want the craft of research. Are you familiar with that?
No.
Okay. Craft of research was designed for PhD students who couldn't write dissertations at the University of Chicago in 1995. Since that time, it's now in its fifth edition, I believe, dropped to the most advanced high school students. And it says it has three levels: context, get everybody on the same page, then identify a problem, and then what's the solution so that the reader actually learns something substantive. And when you go through that, imagine this: they want the when the teacher picks up the paper to learn something substantive, something reasonable. If not, it says don't write the paper. So virtually every college and high school paper produced in America is it says don't write it. So I reduced that over um, down in the last 20 years. I reduced that down to context is fourth and fifth grade, problem is middle school, and the solution is high school and college. So I want you to imagine this. If you have 20 papers in an advanced placement English class taught by a teacher teaching Shakespeare for 20 years, and we're doing Romeo and Juliet, the chances of that teacher learning something substantively new from a student is near zero. Happens a few times in their career and they remember every one of them. You follow the formula that I've created, every paper that's turned in, the teacher will learn something at least marginally substantive. Every paper. So we finally cracked the craft of research.
In your own life right now at the moment, how do
Mhm.
you deal with are you still dealing with dyslexia? Because I think it's not a curable thing.
Oh,
People,
I've overcome it a great deal, but yeah, I've moved to audiobooks instead of reading. I can still read books. I mean, I've solved it. I solved it for me, but it's taxing. So I'll be very honest. I use audiobooks to assume most information. When I read, I tend to go to CNBC because everything's summarized there. But when it comes to writing, I am a huge proponent of artificial intelligence. When ChatGPT came out with a $200 professional plan um, back in last December, I signed up for it the same day. And it allowed me to become more productive than I ever imagined. I am now producing probably 20 to 50x my productivity every day because of how it is that I use it. And all it's good for is it gets me to a really good first draft. And then I send it out to other very senior people to clean up, rewrite. We go back and forth, but it gets you to that first draft really fast.
what's the biggest misconception in regards to dyslexia?
People think it's a reading problem. It's not. It's anything that's the furthest thing from the truth. If you ask a dyslexic this question, Do you have ideas in your speciality, their area of extreme interest and ability, flying around your head at light speed, but with little to no organization? They're going to say yes. So what we have to do is to force the brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. To give you an example, this is, you see the name of this book? Post-war Japan is History? I just love using this as an example. This was the first author is Professor Dower. He won the Pulitzer National Book Award. All right, just so you can see the name of the title. And if people really want to see that, here's the first paragraph. Okay. I will tell people when I'm teaching reading teachers, I will say, here it is. Just tell me what's in the the first paragraph. And the vast majority of them can't. Half the undergrads at Harvard who I've talked to can't tell me what's in that paragraph. Why? Because it's unfamiliar to them. And Professor Dower's writing style is so dense. He will say more in a paragraph than people literally say in books. And literally, it causes gen ed students like a train going off the rails. Dyslexics, once properly trained, can read that and discuss it very intelligently. But literally, you'd be shocked at the number of people with master's degrees, people at the Ivy League who simply can't get past that paragraph. And really, what it comes down to is once the dyslexic brain is properly organized and taught, I can teach that. But trying to teach that to a college graduate from Harvard who was a valedictorian in high school who can't it, read that level of material and they go off the rails, it's really difficult to try to do the same thing with that.
Now we know that can affect someone's self-esteem as they grow up.
Mhm.
How could the kid or the child, wherever he is in his process, uh, can have confidence in himself?
Really, what you got to do is you got to solve the problem because two things happen in our school system. Number one, what dyslexic professor showed me is that dyslexics learn best by specific to the general, not general to the specific, which is the exact opposite of how we're taught. All right, you start us off from the general to the specific. We have nothing to latch onto, nothing to organize our mind. And when we step outside our speciality, we don't like that. I mean, we rebel against that. And this system is designed to make us well-rounded educationally before we specialize, which is why dyslexics excel in graduate school and not anyplace else. So what tends to happen is two things. Either the kid becomes so hyper motivated that they will clash through any wall to solve the problem, or they become destroyed, shattered as a person. And you got to pick up the pieces. It's usually one of those two extremes. You don't have a lot in the middle. So you got to solve the underlying issue. And what I would like to point people to is solution's been staring at us in the face for 20 years. This is a book called Overcoming Dyslexia by Sally Shaywitz. This is the science in my field. And the solution, surprisingly, is really quite simple. You see the picture of the dyslexic brain there?
Yeah.
See how the back part has almost no neural activity? Oops, I'm doing the whoops. Yeah, let me just sorry. Here's the better one. This is really what it comes down to. You see how the back part of the gen ed brain has a lot of neural activity and virtually nothing for the dyslexic?
The picture where it has two brains, or the one?
Yes, the one with two brains.
Okay. Yeah.
See the difference?
Yeah.
See how the front part of the dyslexic brain is about 2.5 times overactive?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we have to do is use the strength of the dyslexic, not the weakness. That's what I do is so different. Yale says that has to do with articulation followed by word analysis. That's what I did with my original program. Worked for the elite students. But for everybody else, what I found is we had to switch it around. Word analysis first, followed by articulation. But that's step three of the model. Step one is we focus on their speciality, their area of extreme interest and ability. And step two is we work from the specific to the general so that we can latch onto a point and it forces the brain to organize itself as we go out to step two, three, and four. All right.
Yeah, you were going to say something, or
Yeah, no, you follow that, and you can just the kid will just explode academically. That's literally is the three-step secret to take a student from frustration to forever confidence. It's really that simple.
to add to this, what can parents do?
Well, the first thing is you have to find out your child's speciality. It's like a Saturday morning. You say Saturday morning you can do anything you want. What would it be all day? That's their speciality. You get a book and an audio book in that area. So, for example, by far my most requested one is this: Walt Disney, The Triumph of the American Imagination. See how thick that is? This is 11th grade, 12th grade reading material. I would give that to a 10-year-old, and within 18 months to 2 years, they're reading it. I show parents how to do that at home. You don't have to spend $75,000 a year at a private dyslexic school for 4 to 5 years. They can do it right at home.
Have you ever seen a situation where the household, let's say one of the parents was dyslexic and the kid was dyslexic also?
Happens all the time. It's genetic. It's almost always the case.
Wow. So what happens? Have you dealt with situations like that, or?
Hundreds of times. Yeah. What generally happens is the person who helps the dyslexic child is normally mom. Back when Facebook let us have all the data we weren't supposed to have, I found over 90% of it was moms. And that what I found about working in this the last 20 years. All you really so typically what happens is they'll contact me. I will talk to the child. I'll ask them generally two questions. In your speciality, your area of extreme interest and ability, do you have ideas flying around your head at light speed, but with little to no organization? They all say yes. If not now, then sometime in the past. Then I'll say fingers, keyboard, fingers, keyboard. Take your fingers, put it on the keyboard. When you do that, does the idea fly out of your head, leaving you with an empty brain? Severe dyslexia will say yes. ADD, ADHD, or mild dyslexia will say no. And I say, okay, has anybody ever asked you these questions before? No. Then we talk a bit further, and I tell them, well, I'm like you. I've went through this. Is this how you would like to learn? If they don't say yes, then I'm not the person for you. If they say yes, then what we do is we get their audiobook, something that they like, and then naturally then you get the printed book, and then we work through that book until they're reading that book. And sometimes kids will go like they'll just pick up something this thick and that's it. Once they're done, they're done. They're ready for college. Or they might start off with Harry Potter, then move to an intermediate book, and then go to some big one like that. It's their choice. And what I do is I show parents step by step what to do. We meet once a week on a webinar, and everything's written out with videos on how to go through things, and they just take the time they need until the kids reading or writing at grade level or above. That's it.
Okay. Uh, One thing I just would like to add, there's a lot of people that are successful in the world that had to deal with dyslexia. I found out when I was doing my research, Richard Branson from the founder of Virgin had dyslexia too. I found out that the mayor of New York, I forgot Eric Adams,
Yes.
dealt with that too. So it's for people who think like people can't go far in life, like professionally or be somebody, a lot of people have overcome dyslexia in their past. So I just wanted to add that. So I don't know if you had anything to add in regards to that too.
Yes, and really what it comes down to is, as Richard Branson said, if he can't do math. If he did, he wouldn't start an airline. Okay. We see things that other people don't do. So we walk into grad school. Remember that what I told you I was done in less than 2 weeks? All right. That's where we excel. Okay. When we're out in the real world, typically what happens is now with artificial intelligence, we now have a writer with us the entire time. It helps out tremendously. Okay. And what I'll tell people that are considering using that are out in your careers, Look at the pro version of ChatGPT. Yeah, it's 200 a month, but you'll be amazed at what O3 Pro can do. We're doing this in the summer of 2025. That model, I can't tell you how much that's saving me. All right. And we also tend to have, I tell people, become valuable enough so that you can get a human assistant. And then what you're going to find out is the person around a dyslexic who's running a company is the person right below them is the most organized person you have ever met, detailed oriented like crazy. We need somebody like that. All right. But the big idea is how to relate to people. We've been treated like garbage our entire life going through school. Remember, it's designed exactly against how we learn. We want to be specialists. They want us to be well rounded. We want to go specific to the general. They want to go general to the specific. It's designed to frustrate the heck out of us inadvertently. All right. We've been treated so badly that when we become managers, we are very cautious about making people feel bad. We really look into it, and dyslexic managers are normally, and companies run by dyslexics are normally known as the best companies to work for.
What's the last thing you would like to add in regards to everything we talked about?
Well, the main thing is this is solvable. Okay. So I'm going to be sending you a link where people can click on it. They will be able to download a document, the 3 reasons your child's having trouble in school due to dyslexia. And if you go ahead and fill that out, you can set up a 15-minute chat with me and I can walk your child through this and see if this is something that they're interested in. For professionals who are going through this, if you just go to my website, dyslexia classes, plural, dyslexiaclasses.com, there's a contact form. And I've worked with professionals all the time on how to set their lives up so that they can be very successful. You would not believe the amount of writing, reading, processing information to value added forms that I do every day. And it is an insane advantage being dyslexic now. And now with all these tools out there that are relatively inexpensive, we used to need to have our own private administrative assistants or multiple ones. And now with the artificial intelligence, my goodness, this was designed for us. People think ChatGPT is so brilliant. We connect the ideas and then we ask it, now that we've connected this, how do we go for the next step? O3 Pro is phenomenal at that. But I got to show it how to connect the dots. Okay. AI is not replacing us. We are there to guide it, and we will always be there to guide it.
Last question. In 2 minutes, if you could answer that, what would be one thing you would change in the education system?
I think we need to go to very simply, we need to go to a much more individual model. This idea that we're going to keep teaching what we've been doing, nothing's really changed since World War II. Okay. We're teaching the same stuff in different ways in high school that your grandparents were learning. We need to make this individually based. We need to start training students to start working with artificial intelligence responsibly, not just go write my paper. Okay. That's why everything that I do requires quotes from the book, each paragraph, no quote, no paragraph. Okay. It's the guide working with it more efficiently, not letting it do your thinking for you. Because here's what's happening. If you can master the craft of research, I'll simplify it like this. We don't need to learn to be prompt engineers each time a new AI model comes out. You look at the craft of research. If you master that, context problem solution. If you master that, you don't need to know how to do prompt engineering. You prompt engineer your head. If you do that, and you go out in the workforce, you will be hired and you will do very well. If you can't, you're going to be on the other side of things. As the guy who runs Anthropic said, in 5 years, half the white collar jobs for new kids are gone. You'll be on that side of it, probably working at McDonald's. If you can do the craft of research, you'll be on the other side making so much more money, regardless if you're dyslexic or not dyslexic.
Where can people learn more about you and follow you?
Best thing to do is just go to dyslexiaclasses.com. Again, it's dyslexiaclasses.plural.com. And I'll send you a link where they can click on to speak to me directly, or they can go there and fill out the contact page.